Welcome back to the Cheeky Crypto Podcast with your hosts, Mike, JB, and Chris. Many thanks for listening in, liking, and subscribing. If you haven't done so, do us a favor and smash that like and subscribe button and turn on all notifications. We really do appreciate it. If you haven't joined the Discord or Patreon, link is in the description down below. A fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. And most importantly, it's absolutely free to join. Now let's get into some crypto talk. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
What's up, guys? How are we? We're all good today?
Yeah, man, doing good. Chris, how are you, mate?
Yeah, really good. Just another really full-on day, right? It's just back to back and lots of really exciting stuff coming.
Yeah, I'm freaking pumped to be back, man. This is great. I love it. JB, welcome, dude. How you been doing, man?
Yeah, I'm super excited. This is this is quite surreal. Obviously, I've watched this from day one and when you guys started up. So to be honest, it's pretty special. I'm very happy.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really cool. We got all the accents going on, right? You got the States, you got the British accent, and now we got the Scottish accent. You know, and it reminds me of a movie, Braveheart, which I'm sure you know, but it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Is Braveheart, and so when I hear you talk, it like makes me so happy. I feel like William Wallace. Like
subtitles down below.
Oh man. Yeah, man. Look, podcast is back. I'm pumped to do it. I know Chris is excited. JB's excited. We're gonna have Nick probably jump on every now and then, but yeah, it's great to be back. I think we got tons of stuff to cover. Obviously, Chris and Nick have absolutely smashed this market and have just called so many things. And if you guys follow the YouTube channel, obviously they called the FTX situation way before it happened. And they've called this. Chris, what was it this morning on Twitch that happened? You said, how many new lower lows has there been?
I think there's been 4 new lower lows. And yeah, look, right, bit of a piss take in regards to that, right? The reason I asked Nick how many lower lows we had since June is because I called the June low back in May. And obviously it came in and I was very much, it doesn't feel painful enough and it doesn't feel like a true bottom for crypto and Bitcoin. So at that point I've told everybody that that isn't the bottom, and obviously that goes against the grain, right? We've got lots of other influencers that were saying June was the bottom, and none of these individuals called the bottom before it came in until afterwards, right? And talking about all these different indicators, and my words were, my very words were that they are all going to be invalidated. Mark my words. And I think we've seen an awful lot of those invalidated now, and 4 lower lows since then. So I kind of feel like validated, I guess, in what we've been talking about, and obviously calling the FTX catastrophe is probably the best word to use for that, and BlockFi. And we've got a whole list of other exchanges and lending, platforms that we kind of feel, we've got suspicions about, and we're starting to see some of this in the data.
Yeah. Go ahead, JB.
I just wanted to touch on the work that Nick and Chris have done. I mean, these guys don't get the credit for what they're doing. I mean, this is second nature to them. They don't need the acclamation for what they're doing, but each and every day they're in here, they're updating us, the charts, the data, everything. They're so good.
Well, I think look, Discord now is over 5,000 members. So congrats to you and Nick on the job well done, right? I think the beauty, I think the beauty to that is it speaks volume to, like, people are starting to recognize that you guys are calling these things. And, you see so many YouTubers, people on Twitter backtracking now, like, oops, I messed up, right? And it's not an oops when you have, say, 500,000 followers who are trying to, and you're not a financial advisor, and I get that, but if you're saying the bottom's in and 500,000 people follow you, well, more than likely, a lot of those people are going to lose a lot of money, right, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of people save money. I actually did a video before the FTX stuff kicked off, and it was a 3 o'clock video on the YouTube channel. And I was encouraging as many people to watch that video as possible, because I had a really important message to sort of air to people around sort of mindset and what we should really be focused on. And the mindset for me was, we should preserve the capital that we hold. We should, you know, look after the assets that we've got, get them off of exchanges, you know, and it shouldn't be about how much money we're going to make right now. It should be about how much money we can save. And that was a really important message for me with what we were kind of seeing with FTX. And at that point, when I made that video, we were still like, we're going to talk about FTX and, you know, the issues that we can kind of see sort of escalating. But we didn't know to what extent that was going to be at the time that video was made. But, you know, looking back on it, you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing. That was a very, very important message. So if you ever see me say, you know, like I encourage as many of you to watch this video and share the shit out of it, you know, there's a real reason for it.
Yeah, it's I remember seeing that message pop up in the Discord, like, hey, very important video coming out today. Make sure you guys check it out. And you know, immediately after watching that, I mean, I personally started moving all of my stuff off of, say, KuCoin, right? And I moved it over into cash, and I've just been sitting in cash. And everybody in the community knows that I'm an impulsive buyer, right? Like if yesterday, I'm sitting there, I was on here with both of you. I'm like, oh man, this price is going to come in, it's going to hit. And then like, there's just no need for it, right? Like, I think right now, just looking at the macro environment, I mean, cash is king, right? Sitting in there and just having your money there until the contagion, like you said, finishes playing out. You know, there was an article I read just before we got on here on CoinDesk saying that there's over 100 companies that have filed bankruptcy now. Where are those assets? You know, what's going to happen? JB, go ahead.
Yeah, it was just obviously to touch on moving everything off of the exchanges. I mean, we sat with a few members in Discord and talked them through moving a lot of their assets onto MetaMask. And obviously, Chris has got the videos in 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗧𝗧𝗧 on the Discord. Obviously, that's super important for everybody to know how to do. If they don't have a ledger, have a MetaMask, get it off the exchange, keep it safe. If it's on exchange, it's not yours.
Right. Yeah, I think there's been over 130 bankruptcy filings off the back of FTX. It's actually over 130. I think some of the headlines are not getting the numbers right. They're missing a few off. And there's some really interesting ones, right? And obviously you've got Genesis. They're looking to raise, I think it's around $1 billion, and I think they're 500 million off. And it doesn't look like they're gonna be able to do it, right? And the contagion.
Binance closed that down. Binance said they will not do it because it could be a conflict of interest down the road.
Yeah, and like they're big, and like if they go, like who knows how deep this is going to go in the crypto space. So I think the message that needs to go out is, you know, if you're starting to become more comfortable with exchanges, like don't, you know, make sure that you're keeping that crypto safe. The message is still preserve your capital. Like that needs to be the message that people are hearing loud and clear.
Yeah, I think, look, I want to put it in this term just because, you know, if I'm going to go buy a project, for instance, like say the lows come in, we're still super nervous about exchanges. Obviously, I would choose an exchange that like a Binance or something. Honestly, all exchanges right now are just sketchy to be on anyways. But I think Binance would be one that 53 billion in backed assets, right? Like cash. I think they're pretty good off. But like for me, for instance, like say there's a project on KuCoin that I can't get on Binance, you know, I'll quickly move my USDT over, buy what I need to buy, and then move it to Ledger immediately, right? So yes, there's some risk moving from, say, Binance over to KuCoin to get your project, but the biggest thing is getting that off of the exchange so that that exchange doesn't own your assets and you actually own your assets. And I think that's been drilled pretty heavily in all the videos that have been done. It's been drilled into the Discord. To get a ledger, get a MetaMask, get a trust wallet, get something that you don't get caught up in the mix, right? It's okay if you go buy something, if you really need to go buy it right now. We're still expecting new lower lows. So we could have maybe a fifth one, a sixth one, a seventh one. But if you're going to buy something, take it off the exchange, put it in a wallet. I mean, then it's yours. Then you don't have to, worry if KuCoin crashes. Your stuff's already off. It's on your wallet, right? I think
Yeah.
that's a big message.
Yeah, I think that's a really important message. There is a link in the description of the video for Ledger. We are affiliated with Ledger. We do get a small kickback, but they have a really good deal on at the moment. If you get a Ledger X, you'll get $30 worth of BTC. If you get the S Plus, you'll get $20 of BTC, which is a phenomenal deal when you consider the price of these things, and that you're keeping your crypto safe. So definitely recommend checking that out. Now, with all that said, there are risks in moving the assets off of exchanges, and we need to air that and be clear with people on those risks. And one of those risks is, making sure that you're moving it on the right chain. Always do a test transaction. And I know sometimes gas fees are generally quite high, but I'd rather personally lose like $4 doing a transaction than lose maybe $4,000. So, just make sure that you're double checking, treble checking. Don't do a Chris from crypto.com
and
just send it to the wrong address. So yeah, look, I wouldn't go ask Chris how it's done.
Although if you're going to send it to the wrong address, send it here.
I'll send it back to you. No worries at all. Just like what was the exchange that he sent it to by accident?
It was to gate.io.
Yeah, and they sent it back in like 10 to 15 different transactions, right? Like 40 million, 10 million, 30 million. But anyways, that's the message we want to get by to you guys. I know it's been a while, so we just want to kind of, just in case you guys don't look at the other YouTube, which I highly recommend doing. There's a lot of TA that's covered on there. Chris brings up tons of topics that, obviously this FTX thing got dropped before FTX collapsed. So it's very important to follow along with both. Obviously, we're going to be on here, shooting the shit here and there with the podcast. And, but yeah, so let's get into, a little bit of other crypto talk. Let's talk about, Bitcoin, Ethereum, kind of where they're at. Obviously, we've been talking about lower lows. Today, there's been a little bit of movement. Now we're hovering around 801 billion. So still way under $1 trillion in the market cap. And, it's interesting, on Nick's video this morning, I think a lot of people, now that they've moved off exchanges, is their assets now, is their Bitcoin and Ethereum just going to sit in their, cold wallet? Is it going to sit there? Will it ever come back on the exchange, or people now going to hold? Chris, JB, what's y'all's thoughts on that?
Well, I mean,
you go.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think there will be a lot of people that will just not bother putting it back on the exchange and just hold it through. Like, I'm very much in that camp. It's such a pain just to keep moving the crypto about. So I do think there will be pockets of that, people that understand the risk of moving, large sums of crypto, may just, sit it out and just, hold strong. I mean, if you've been following the channel for some time, then you're probably doing quite well, because we weren't encouraging people to buy at 20, 21, 22K, right? We've been saying expect lower lows. So I think people are going to be in a really good position. But yeah, what about yourself, JB?
I just think looking at that number, 802 billion. How is it so low so quickly? It wasn't that long ago we were over $1 trillion. I mean, that's just scary.
Well,
it's still a hell of a lot of money.
In the bull market, we're at 3 trillion?
Yeah. I mean, that's just, it's a crazy figure, 802 billion. It's still a hell of a lot of money. Yeah. But on the macro scale of things, to fall that hard, it's going to fall further, but to fall that hard, that's mind-boggling.
Yeah, and I mean, Bitcoin moved up today just a little bit, but I think that's just because it's been so oversold. And Ethereum obviously sitting at about $1,100. Last 7 days is down 10%. Bitcoin over the last 7 days down 3%. Bitcoin's been hovering around that 16,100. I think last night it got down to roughly like 15.4. And Nick did TA video this morning looking at close to like 14.9, maybe possibly being the end of one of the structures. Then we could see a move up, but then we still expect it to go lower. And per the data that Nick's been talking about, none of these shrimps, the one Bitcoin holders, have even started selling. So there clearly is not enough fear yet. And I don't see how there's not enough fear yet, because watching FTX collapse within a week and a half, that shit was scary. Like, my mom who doesn't know anything about crypto was like, what's this FTX thing? So like all these people are talking about FTX now, right? And I think a lot of that also has to do with the backing of Kevin O'Leary and the guy from Shark Tank. Also, Tom Brady, Steph Curry, Shaquille O'Neal, like talking about all those guys. So a lot of people know what FTX is, who FTX is, and now they're seeing, that these guys basically just played with everybody's money. The article said they bought over $300 million worth of real estate and investments in the Bahamas.
Which is mind-boggling, right? Really is mind-boggling.
The news in the UK is starting to cover FTX. Now,
oh, wow.
Notoriously, in the UK don't talk about crypto. And you listen to BBC Radio. I was listening on my drive today, and they were talking about everything FTX, what's going on. Now, that doesn't happen often in the UK.
I just want to talk a little bit about I guess you said the word scared, and I think you're right. Like, people are scared, but I don't feel that they're feeling the pain just yet. I think pain is going to increase massively, and I think that's where the shrimps actually sell. They don't sell when they're scared. They're going to sell when they feel that pinch, and that pinch is coming. Today I was told, and I don't do the grocery shopping, right? So just put that out there, right? Like, someone else does that. And I'm being told that you can only buy 12 eggs because of like bird flu. So like, there's even other things happening in the world that are making it very, very difficult for us to what's the word? Like you've got the contagion from FTX, you've got the energy prices, the cost of living, and then you've got bird flu, you've got logistics issues and all sorts of different things. So yeah, look, I think people have got to really feel the pain over time before we start to see them sell.
Yeah, I would be curious if the shrimp actually sell or if they just leave it on the exchange, because I'm listening to Nick's data sometimes and I'm like, do these guys just hold it forever? But I see what you're saying. Can hold Bitcoin, right? Which roughly could be $10,000 to $15,000, or do I pay my electric bill and rent or mortgage? So I think it'll come down to that. That'll be the fear that you're talking about, and the overall macroeconomic standpoint. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's the pain that I'm talking about. When people need to keep the lights on, keep the heating on.
Sure.
That's going to be the point where they're not going to have any choice but to sell. I think that's where we're going to start to see the sort of maximum pain. I think it's going to be 4 to 6 months before, we actually see the true bottom, and that really depends on some of the players in the space collapsing. Who are they? How many people are exposed? And then, we'll bottom out. I think there's a long way to go.
I totally agree with that. I think we're a long way off. There's far too much still to happen. The world's not in a great place. There's so much going on around. Take everything away from the crypto side of it. I mean, we all know what's going on around the world. China, Russia, Ukraine. There's talks with Saudi Arabia, Iran, things like that. There's a lot of big things going on right now. A long way away from the bottom.
And not saying it to scare anyone. I think it's really important that, people sort of look at or listen to what we're saying and then go away and research some of it, and perhaps look at recessions and what tends to happen in recessions, right? Because a lot of like TA like crypto TA influencers, they will talk about the actual movements of the price of Bitcoin or Ethereum and cryptocurrency. Some of them are obviously looking at the movement of the dollar now. That seems to be a trend that's came out of nowhere, but ultimately they're not actually looking at any other data. And this is what sort of I feel sets our channel apart from others, because we're looking at the fundamentals, we're looking at the other markets and the other events that are happening in the real world, as well as looking at the technical, the technical analysis on Bitcoin and all the different cryptocurrencies. I think this is why we've been able to navigate the space, as well as we have so far.
So, I mean, basically, there are a bunch of projects that essentially could potentially not survive this. So what I think I want to segue into next, maybe on a more positive light, since we have been about 20 minutes of negative light.
On the positive side of things, this is like the biggest opportunity that we're ever going to get in our lifetimes. Like, this is, generational level wealth opportunity for changing many people's lives. So, being engaged and, focused on what's actually happening in the space, could really change your life for the positive. As much as it feels really, really bad right now, it doesn't feel like it's going to get any better any soon, or any sooner. I do think that this is a huge opportunity not to be missed.
I totally think that's right. We had a couple of guys talking to us on the Patreon chat the other night. Me and Mike were on, and they said they've been out of space for 4 weeks and 6 weeks, and so much has changed so quickly. Can you remember that? Yeah, so much changed so quickly. Like, you're totally right. Obviously, nobody wants to buy right now, but you have to keep your eyes on the market. You need to see what's going on. These little bounces, if you want to make the money there as well, that money is there to be made, but a few weeks out of this space and you miss a lot.
Yeah, there's many influencers that haven't actually experienced a bear market, bull market, bear market, bull market, right? They just haven't. They haven't. Some of them, I would question whether they're even old enough to have experienced too. But you got people that have been working 9 to 5 jobs, right? Or 8 to 8 these days, right? They haven't got time to be focused on cryptocurrency and the movements of people in the blockchain space. So yeah, look, you have to immerse yourself in a great community. You have to watch, some of the influencers on YouTube, right, to be able to keep up. It's really important though that you watch the ones that actually, are accurate in the information that they're putting out and have navigated the market, well. The ones that obviously get it wrong all the time, probably not the best to watch, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's some big giant names in the Twitter world that don't even know what certain projects are.
Like Polkadot.
Exactly. Something along those lines. But what I wanted to segue into was a couple, just 2 altcoins from each of you and myself that you feel are most likely going to probably survive the bear market. B, they're going to explode and are just really strong projects, right? Strong team, strong technology, have a great, say social space or whatever. Just 2 altcoins basically that you guys, really like. And JB, we'll start with you, brother.
I mean, anybody that speaks to me in Discord know that I absolutely love the Singularity network. To choose between Singularity-DAO and AGIX, you're hard to pick between them. I think we had the pleasure of meeting Singularity with Chris and Nick, and that was very fruitful. We learned a lot. We got a lot of information out of them when we did talk to them in London. So for me, I'm focusing on Singularity-DAO. I like what they're doing. I like the Dynasets. The percentage returns they've seen on the last Dynasets for BTC, if I remember correct, is 60%. What are you getting better in the space at 60% returns?
60% returns is, you're doing all right. Chris, you've actually used Dynasets before, correct? Like, how difficult is it to actually use SDAO's Dynasets?
It's really simple. The new Dynaset that they've got is a really big upgrade on the previous one that JB was just talking about, where the returns for, I think it was Bitcoin, was about 60%, as he mentioned. Now the new Dynasets, the upgraded version, you'll be able to short the market and utilize leverage. So the previous Dynaset was only using one trading strategy, so and it achieved 60%, which massively outperformed traditional hedge funds. So the new one, we're expecting bigger returns, and it's going to be interesting to see whether that comes to fruition or not, obviously with the market the way it is. But the fact that you can utilize leverage and short in the market, I mean, if we look at the market now, like, the timing couldn't have been any better, right? So look, I put $10,000 into the previous one. It did really well. I really do like 𝗕𝗊 and everything that they're doing there as well. I think they've got a really strong team. You know, we've spoke to them quite a lot. I actually spoke to them today, in fact, and they're doing some really cool stuff. So I expect some really big things from the Singularity DAO team. We know that obviously they're working on well, not the DAO team, but Singularity as a group. There are other projects that are about to launch that really do seem interesting.
Yeah. So JB, those just both of those, correct? AGIX and
So,
𝗕𝗊. Oh, you got one
I'm
more.
going 3 here. I'm going 3.
Oh,
couldn't
have at
pick
it, brother. Go ahead.
I think it would be wrong not to talk about XRP. Now, take the lawsuit out of the equation. We all know what's going on there. We know something big is going to happen, but talk about the actual utility of Ripple XRP. Super green, super fast, low cost, scalable, stable as hell. That's a solid project in my opinion. I think there's a lot to come from XRP.
Yeah, I don't think the light gets shined on XRP's technology enough, and I think a part of it is muted because of the SEC. So I think once the SEC trial kind of finally comes to a close, whatever decides to happen with that, whenever the hell that's going to happen, or whenever the case decides to settle, hopefully Ripple can get back going in they get to talk about their technology, right? Instead of the SEC stuff. So Chris, I know you're very bullish on XRP. I am just kind of getting turned on to XRP ever since joining the community. So I know there's people in my local area where I'm from that actually are very involved with XRP. That's all they hold. They don't hold any other projects. But yeah, so JB, I'm definitely a buyer of both of, or all three of those actually. AGIX for sure. 𝗕𝗊 definitely going to have a load of, me personally. XRP, I'm finally going to buy my first bit. And honestly, I think XRP holds up very well as Bitcoin continues to set maybe 10 more lower lows on its way down. But Chris, give me two of your altcoins.
Well, I'll touch on XRP a little bit before I go on to mine. But yeah, look, XRP for myself, you know, is a really solid project. They've got great technology. They're going into the NFT space as well. You know, I think that they've also expanded throughout the globe whilst they've still been under the scrutiny of the SEC. So I don't see them slowing down you know, in any way either. And I think the court case still looks really positive for XRP. So yeah, really like it. I think it's a great project. I think it's going to do really well. As for my two projects that I'll pick, and obviously I know what you're going to pick, Mike. So I'm going to go with a couple of others that haven't been picked and aren't going to be picked, I wouldn't imagine. So I'm going to start with Chainlink. I think, you know, as oracles go, I think it's a phenomenal project. I don't think it's really performed as well as I would expect it to have done over the, you know, the previous bull market. But with that said, you know, they've got a really big partnership with Swift. And, you know, for anybody that doesn't know, like Swift, like they basically move over $1.25 quadrillion a year. So like, for a partnership, that's pretty immense, right? And you know, you got Arweave, Compound, loads and loads of projects. They're pretty much ingrained in everything. So they've got a huge first mover advantage. I don't think that people tend to move from like a business.
So let me ask a question about Chainlink. I don't mean to cut you off, but isn't staking coming to Chainlink?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So you're going to have that as well, which will lock up a lot of the supply. So, but you know, not even focusing on that, just focusing on the actual like utility of the project and how integrated it is with everything in the space. Like people don't tend to move, like customers don't tend to move unless there's a reason to move, like unless it's cheaper somewhere else, unless it's better somewhere else. And I don't think you're going to get that with Chainlink. I think, you know, they're going to be priced competitively, and I think they're going to be as good, if not better, than the majority of the competition. So I think they're positioned really well. Obviously, you've got the staking aspect, which I hadn't gone to just yet. But you know, for me, Chainlink, I think it has to be up there. It has to be one that people take seriously. I do think it's a blue chip. People might argue with me on that, but you know, it's very volatile. I think there's money to be made on it, you know, on a regular in different ways as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely loading up on Chainlink. I wasn't gonna load up on Chainlink until I saw some of Nick's charts on Chainlink.
Yeah.
And then when I heard about staking, obviously, because as Chainlink continues to get locked up, TVL grows, all of that. And then to hear the Swift partnership, I mean, Chainlink you're finally seeing a little bit more about Chainlink. I know Benjamin Cohen is big into Chainlink. I think a lot of old school guys are big into Chainlink because Chainlink's been around for a long time.
Yeah. I think there's lots of other projects that are going to be really, really big that are going to need oracles, you know, metaverse, right? Consider like a metaverse that wants to replicate the weather in New York, for example.
Oh, true.
You know, like, you know, the bus timetables, the taxi timetables, all that real world data that you want to bring into the metaverse, for example. I mean, like, it's endless. So yeah, mind blown, right? Like, then you've got all the stuff with Swift and everything else. I just think that people don't understand the market and don't understand what these projects are needed for. So, you know, you think that metaverse is going to be a fantastic sector in the next bull cycle or the one after. Well, so are oracles then, so are data storage projects. You know, you've got to look at actually, you know, outside of that particular sector, what is required, where's the utility, and that's kind of why I've picked out Chainlink. I think it's immersed itself in the crypto space and intertwined itself in the space, and I don't think it can be undone. I think it's so heavily ingrained, it's going to do really well.
Yeah, I'm quite neglectful of oracles. I've not looked enough into oracles and the foundations of them, what utility, everything around it. I understand them. What I do know is Chainlink is reliable as hell. They're proven. So if you need confidence in something you don't know a lot about, my personal opinion is look at Chainlink, read up on Chainlink, and get to understand it. It's exactly what I'm doing right now. Is I'm getting an understanding of how they work, why you need them, what purpose they actually serve. And obviously I can only say it because it's the only one I've properly looked into, but they're proven. What more do you need than something that's proven, it's reliable, and has a massive backing?
Yeah, I think it's for newcomers that come in, you know, and they're following their favorite influencer and all that. I think it's a project that's not talked about very much. And I think it's because of maybe what it does. But if you actually look deep down under what it actually does, it powers a lot of these projects that, say, the newcomer to crypto wants to be involved with, say like Sandbox, or, you know, say like Decentraland, Harmony One, or, you know, things like that, where Chainlink is required, and it actually has the utility of why we're involved with crypto in the first place, right? Like, so Chainlink, the reason I said mind blown when you were saying some of the stuff you were saying is, dude, I might actually make that like my second largest bag now that I'm thinking about everything, because just how you presented it just now made me just like, why would, I mean, on a bull run, a true bull cycle, the amount of Chainlink that's going to be needed during a true bull cycle is just going to be unbelievable. So from a money making standpoint, I'm gonna put my money into Chainlink for sure. Not financial advice. Just want to make sure I
go research it and let us know whether it resonates with you. But yeah, look, you haven't even come onto your two yet, and I've sold you on one of mine. There we go.
Well, my two, everybody's already sold on my two. I don't even need to discuss it. That's why I picked my two before you guys got to pick yours. Chris, give us your other one real quick.
Okay, so I'm going to go with one that is going to surprise an awful lot of people, because it's not even out yet.
Ooh.
I wonder what it's going to be.
I wonder what it is.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Midnight. There we go. Right.
Hey.
So a sidechain for Cardano. Look, we've been looking at FRA, right? We know this, and Midnight is doing something very, very similar to FRA, right? Findora. Now, this isn't, in my opinion, taking anything away from Findora, because they're going to be on the Ethereum chain, whereas this project is going to be on Cardano initially to start, and then obviously onto the likes of Ethereum, Bitcoin, and probably many others. But basically, it's a new data protection and privacy centric blockchain that will obviously be accompanying a token. Now that token is going to be called Dust, and we had, you know, I guess we were fortunate to be at the event that Charles Hoskinson announced the project, and we got to interview him about 2 minutes after he announced it. So throughout all my questions, and we really, you know, focused on this particular announcement that he had in Edinburgh. Now, you know, basically, why am I picking this one over lots of other projects that, you know, I already know an awful lot about, and my knowledge on this one is relatively limited, but I do see the space going off into this particular, you know, direction. And this is why we were looking at Findora, because what this allows you to do is it allows you to have like decentralized exchanges regulated. And this is, you know, with all the FTX stuff, all the centralized issues with, you know, these exchanges, I do see us going into a direction that is more decentralized. And the only way that we do that is if we have regulations that support it. And what this will allow, you know, these decentralized exchanges to do is, you know, have KYC. So for example, if you have a MetaMask wallet, for example, it won't be a MetaMask, let's say it's Lace, you'll be able to have KYC for your Lace wallet, right? And that basically you could utilize this chain or Cardano, for example, and you will be able to keep all of your transactions private, where, you know, as like you won't be able to see my transactions, Mike, for example. However, the authorities, if they needed to check to see, you know, whether there was money laundering going on or something like that, they would have the authority to be able to unmask it. And again, it's really good, like for video games, for example. Let's say you've got Modern Warfare, right? The, you know, Call of Duty or whatever it's called. Yeah. And you want to hide your weapons, mask your weapons, so somebody don't know what weapons you've got, you know, in your arsenal. So I think there's lots of different use cases, and I think it'd be a fantastic project.
Chris, I think we need to get you out of your dungeon occasionally and make sure that you're caught up on the Call of Duty world and, you know, all of that.
yeah. Like those were some time ago, those days.
I wanted to bring up a point because I think there was a part during your interview that I had something recently come up with my son and some medical stuff, and I heard through the interview, I heard there was something to do with potentially being able to use Midnight or Lace to actually hold your health records on top of it. For me, that would be huge, as we're taking my son to like say an emergency room, kind of not a hospital, right? Well, we had to go from there. We had to rush him to a hospital. Between those two times, it took me an hour and a half to go from one place to another place. The records don't show up, right? So what he was given at one place, they didn't actually have the records of that at the hospital. And to me, it would be so massive. And I mean, you could save lives this way too, right? Is being able to just upload what happened onto the blockchain, onto my son's, you know, whatever it is, it would be so beneficial. And I think whoever lands that, and it's going to be hard, I think, to be able to break through the medical system, because it is so dedicated here in the States too. But
this would do it, right? Like, because you would have that. You'd have that, and you would have it masked as well. So only the relevant, you know, doctors or nurses
could open it, right?
To see it. Yeah, exactly. So the other thing that it gives you is it gives you like, I guess some authority over your own data, right? And I think this is a really, really big thing, because data is very valuable, right? Our data is very valuable, and we're giving it away for free at the moment. So you might be able to monetize it in the future as well. I think like we're not even scratching the surface of what this project's going to do for people. I think it's really positive.
So I just want to clarify, though, this doesn't take away from how you feel about Findora as a project. I think it mainly just adds to the fact, right?
Yeah, look, very much so. I kind of said this in the Discord a bit, right? Findora is doing something very, very similar. And all this does is just reaffirm that Nick and myself see the market going in a certain direction, and we're bang on with like the direction that we kind of feel that it's going in. Because, you know, when you talk to the likes of Charles and other prominent people, you know, in the crypto space that are running a lot of these projects, you get a lot of insight, even when they don't actually say the words. We talked about privacy with Charles in the first interview, and we had a little giggle about it, like when we caught up in the second one, because Charles was saying like, oh, yeah, I did have a bit of a smile when you asked me that question. I was like, yeah, I should have twigged, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you sat with Charles, you could see how passionate he was about what he was creating there. Now, if you haven't seen the interview, you have to go and watch it. I had the pleasure of sitting across from Chris. I caught his eye a few times, and you could see the smile. I know you could see the smile on my face. I didn't stop smiling through that whole interview. I mean, I could honestly sit and listen to that man talk for hours on end, never get bored, probably take in very little, because the guy's way above me on intelligence levels. He's an absolute marvel. But to have the pleasure of sitting in the room with him, we sat however many hours listening to the guys talk. Charles came on, we had a break, we went back in, he spoke, it was just bang, dropped the announcement, midnight. And you could see everybody in the room looking around, catching each other's eyes, like, did he just say that? Did he just say what he just said? And then he actually asked, like, are you surprised?
He really did. And I think, you know, his words to me off camera, before we actually started to press the record button on the cameras, was gotcha, because everybody says that, you know, that there's never a big announcement, and he was like, ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, the biggest takeaway for me from the interview wasn't the words that were spoken, and you wouldn't get it from watching it. You wouldn't get it from listening to it, like on a podcast, for example. The only way you could get this is if you were actually in the room. Charles came across very, very proud about this particular project.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, and I mentioned it in the interview. You know, you seem really proud, and like, if somebody is really, really proud and they've built Cardano, like, you know, this shit is special. Like, you know, it's special. So for me, there's a little bit of that, like, for me picking this one, because I do kind of feel like there's something special that we're not being told about it just yet. But it's the way we see the market going, right?
How the hell did they keep quiet?
Yeah.
4 years of hard work. They were
4 years
hard on this project, and they kept it quiet. Yeah. No leaks. Nobody internally leaked anything about the project. Nobody knew about it. Credit to them.
Yeah, it really is. I mean,
4 years is crazy.
We were having all of the announcements sent over to us ahead of time, so we could cover it, like, you know, get stuff out as it was happening. But this one wasn't sent over. Like, this one was totally secret.
Well, I guess I'll start with, you know, my first one, which is obviously Cardano.
Let's go with
which
that.
we knew that was going to be the first one. That's going to be my biggest bag, and I'll tell you, a lot of it has to do with Charles. I respect him. I think it's amazing that he comes onto YouTube and actually talks to the community. I mean, the dude's a multi-billionaire, right? And created one of the craziest layer ones, which we all love, but most people, you either love Cardano or you don't like it. And for why people don't like it, I think it's just because they just don't want to look into it. For me, the biggest thing with Cardano is the fact that it's peer reviewed by, you know, so many people. And I think we want this technology eventually to be picked up by governments. And essentially, I think the fact that Cardano has most of its stuff peer reviewed will be something that stands out when governments are looking to adopt some of this technology. And so to be invested early in a project like that, to me, I think makes Cardano one of the biggest ones. And Chris, obviously, you know so much more about Cardano, and JB, you probably do also. Everybody knows I'm not a technology guy. So, but JB, you were going to say something?
Yeah, what I like with Cardano, obviously, we know fundamentally what Cardano is, what Cardano are doing, but more and more we're learning what they want to do, what they want to do next. Obviously, we've seen talks about midnight dust. We're now seeing the USDA. So they're implemented stablecoin for early next year. We need to look more into that. I personally like that. Anything that isn't USDT, we're moving away from that. I've never had a problem because I've not experienced the issue with USDT, but I believe moving on to Cardano's chain, USDA, I think that could be big. So anything related to Cardano, I'm big on, and I'm much like yourself. My biggest bag will be ADA.
I think as well, you've got Lace, the Lace wallet. I think that is a game changer for crypto, you know, making it easy to you know, get involved in cryptocurrency. You know, if the worst case scenario, somebody passes away, you know, having a custodian for your cryptocurrency, you know, I mean, like if I passed away, my wife wouldn't have a Scooby-Doo how to get into Ledger, like, and recover the cryptocurrency, right? Like that won't be a problem in the future. And I think, you know, Cardano is opening these doors to be able to really actually get mainstream adoption. I think it's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, I think if people follow Cheeky Crypto, obviously they know everybody's huge on Cardano. I think if you were to poll the Discord and ask them what their biggest bag will be going into the next bull cycle, I'm going to probably say 75 to 80% of the entire community will say Cardano. And I think it's honestly a little bit, I'm going to talk about Chris a little bit here, is just the deep dive underneath of not just saying, hey, it's Cardano, this is kind of what it does. It's more of a deep dive understanding what it actually is as a technology, as opposed to, you know, other projects and stuff like that. Yeah, JB?
Yep. You've also got to go on top of that. Obviously, you did touch on it. The fact we've got the guy whose brain is behind this project is so willing to come on, not just our platform, but so many, and talk about it, explain it. For those that don't quite understand, it brings himself down to, obviously at our level, to help us understand what they're trying to achieve. I mean, he deserves the credit that he doesn't get for creating what he's creating and helping everybody understand what Cardano is.
Yeah, and I think we're at that stage now where it's more than just Charles. Like that, the community, for example, Midnight, the community is going to end up launching that. Like Charles is behind it. He's the brains, and, you know, worked on the concept. And I think they're still working on like what the tokenomics are going to look like, the distribution, how that's going to work. But ultimately, it's going to be the community that drives it forward and launches it, and that side of things. I think it's a unique project, and we talk about it an awful lot because out of all of the projects that we look at, right, and you guys know, I think we're at almost 250 project reviews in the last 250 days. I look at a fair few projects, right? So like if we're raving about something as much as we are, it's because actually from a technology point of view, a team point of view, a funding point of view, like it must stand head and shoulders above the rest. We talk about VeChain as well, you know, and I won't come on to that just yet.
Go ahead. Just might as well, because you know that's my second one.
Of course it is. Of course it is. How can we have this conversation and VeChain not be there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, look, VeChain, supply chain is the way the world works.
Well, there's problems with it at the moment. It's not working. And I think that's what brings VeChain to the forefront, right?
Yep. Go ahead. Have at it, because we know you love VeChain. That's my second favorite altcoin. I'm just going to go ahead and say that, and I'll pass it over to Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
But yeah, look, supply chain's really important. It's broken at the minute, let's be honest. And we touched on the landscape from a financial macro sort of viewpoint. And you know, supply chain is very much broken at the moment, and you know, it's going to cause the cost of living to increase alongside many other, you know, things that are happening in the world at the moment. And I think VeChain, you know, being able to track and, you know, improve the supply chain aspect of things, I think is phenomenal. But what really kind of sets VeChain apart for me, apart from like the awesome technology, they just recently had an upgrade to their 2.0 on the mainnet. They are very eco-friendly. I think they actually won an award recently. You know, they are literally like one of the best layer one blockchains like in the world. They're right up there. Like for me, Cardano and VeChain are two of the best ones in the space. And I think that VeChain hasn't quite got the, I guess the trying to think of the right words. It's really difficult to get the right words, but they don't get what like Cardano gets, the praise, of what's actually being built. I kind of feel like a lot of that is historic, with the misinformation around it being a China coin, because that's where their head office was. It's now in Europe. Matter of fact, most of their business is in Europe. They've now broken into the US. I think there's an awful lot of changes that are happening. NFT getting into gaming. They're not just supply chain anymore, and I think that's a fantastic thing to highlight.
Yeah, they're never really covered as a layer one.
No,
like
their supply chain.
Yeah, that's all it is. In my mind, I said supply chain. That was the first thing that came to my mind. Right? It's not thought about that it's actually a layer one protocol that you can build on top of, that projects are building on. And I also think that I hate to say that it's not sexy, but it's not. I
don't know. They've changed. They've had their rebrand.
They're getting sexier.
Yeah,
we'll say that.
yeah. But like they're partnering with projects with real world utility as well. And my opinion on the space is that those projects that have real world utility are going to be the ones that survive what we're going through right now, the recessions. They're the ones that are going to be here for the long term. VeChain's very well funded. They've got a really strong team. They're a 5-star rated blockchain. They were the first 5-star rated blockchain in the world. And I think we've got an awful lot of really good things to come. They've got their stable coin. We're going to have DeFi there as well. And like Cardano, like they don't mind engaging as well. We talked to the team, we asked the team questions. I think there's an awful lot that they're doing that's going to be is going to set them apart from others in the space in the future.
I mean, they're starting to get, obviously, well, they have for a while, but they're getting the mainstream publicity via the UFC. Obviously, Dana White is huge on VeChain, and rightly so. And I also feel much like Ripple XRP, they're green. And I feel anything that is green and sustainable right now are going to do well in the future. My line of work is sustainability. So anything that promotes being sustainable, being green in the space, being that kind of mantra, they have a big future, and that's where people would like to go to, rather than somebody that's costing money, damaging the planet. They want these green projects, and they will do well.
Yeah, I think, I'm going to hold a lot of it.
All I'm going to say is, like, there's been some fantastic projects being talked about this evening, or this morning as it goes out.
Well, essentially, y'all basically called out my entire portfolio between between the ones we talked about. I mean, add in like, maybe 4 or 5 others, but I mean, those are essentially, I would say probably 80% of my portfolio is the ones we discussed. And I think right now, playing for me, this is me, my opinion, playing in the realm of, blue chips and maybe have a little bit in riskier assets. I think it's kind of how I'm going to structure my portfolio, which obviously we can do a podcast on portfolios. If you guys want us to do some of that, leave a comment down below on YouTube. That would be great. But yeah, hey, let's wrap it up, boys. First one back. Chris, you want to leave us with some final thoughts?
Yeah, just let us know in the comments below what sort of content you want us to do, right? Like, this is podcast 2.0, like it's an upgrade. And I really want to know, what sort of content do you want us to be talking about? Let's get this, content, what you want it to be. The only way we can do that is if you let us know. So let us know in the comments below, mash up that like button. Have to say that. But JB, what about yourself?
Just because we only covered 6, 7 projects in this podcast, it doesn't mean they are the only altcoins that have big futures. There are plenty out there. Chris does plenty of reviews. Read them. There's a good one came out today, Lossless. Yeah. I'm doing that tonight, this morning, straight after this podcast. But yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled to be on here. This is it's surreal. The nerves are gone. The first 5 minutes I was a bit shaky, but yeah, the nerves are gone. End of the day, this is a community podcast. This is what it's all about. So if the community has ideas, the community tell us your ideas, so we have things to cover that you want to hear. Otherwise, we're just going to be three guys sitting here talking about stuff that you don't want to listen about.
Yeah, I think that's important. Is, you know, this obviously got started because of the community, and so we're going to put out content that the community wants us to talk about. If you guys leave comments, we'll definitely get to it. But look, you know, this was exciting for me to get back on here. Chris, JB, it's been a pleasure back on here. I'm pumped about it. And yeah, like JB said, these are just a couple of our projects that we like. Obviously, there's a ton more projects that we're excited about, but most importantly, super excited about the podcast. Make sure you smash that like, smash the subscribe button, and we will catch you guys in the next one. Take care.
Take care.